The Gacha, ARK's gentle giant with a hidden secret. Not only do Gacha eat anything and everything you allow them to get their claws on, but they also use their food to grow the crystals on their backs to produce endless resources for their tribes. These slow, sloth-like creatures were first introduced on the Extinction map and live out their days in the sunken forest, happily wandering around and munching on anything in their reach. In ASE, Gacha were also found in the northwestern side of Genesis 2, as well as in the Asgard and Vanaheim realms of Fjordur. However, at the current moment, these two locations are not yet available in ARK Ascended, so we will be going down into the sunken forest in the northwestern corner of the Extinction map to tame some for you too. To get to the sunken forest, you will need to travel through the wasteland and down into the big opening in the ground, following the waterfall down into this hidden sanctuary. I suggest bringing a flying mount with good carry weight, but there is a path leading all the way down if you prefer to walk here with a land-based tame. Once in the sunken forest, you will need to look for your new potential best friend. And as is the case with most tames, make sure to rid the area of anything that may attack it. Taking damage from you, your tames, or wild creatures will make the gacha sad, and you will need to wait around for a while for the gacha to become happy again, as it will not allow you to tame it if it is feeling down. If your potential gacha has taken damage, you may be able to reset it by going out of render range and returning. However, this may allow something new to spawn in and come nibble at this friendly fellow again. Gachas are a passive tame and you do not need to trap them. However, if you want to set up a taming hub with vaults for your taming foods, you can build a box trap of at least 2x2 foundations and 1 wall high and lure the gacha in with a piece of honey. Alternatively, you can build a slightly bigger box and pick up your gacha with a Quetzal or Reiniognatha and drop them safely inside the trap, or just move them out of danger. Something to consider when Christmas time rolls around and Gacha Claus is out is that this jolly Christmas hat wearing fellow cannot be picked up and moved around anymore as we could in ASE. You can still build around them though, as keeping them safe and contained in one area while you feed them makes Winter Wonderland loot much easier to obtain. Although the Christmas gachas cannot be tamed, they give out loot crystals that contain seasonal goodies in exchange for coal and mistletoe. To make use of these gifts, you first need to collect coal and mistletoe from the various other Christmas critters and drop them down at Gacha Claus's feet, 1 coal and 1 mistletoe at a time. Then wait for this jolly old fellow to eat your offering, walk around a bit, sit down, and reward you with a sparkly crystal full of Christmas goodies. To tame your gacha, make sure that it isn't unhappy. Unhappy gacha don't want to eat, and trying to tame one in this state will make them moan and hold their head away from the food like a defiant toddler refusing a spoonful of pumpkin. Sad gacha look the same when tamed or wild, so we want smiley faces and perky ears to know that the gacha is ready to tame. Make sure that there isn't a gacha of the same gender too close, as this can make the gacha sad and unwilling to eat your tasty treats. Gacha can now spawn with babies in tow, but these do not make the adults sad even if they have the same gender. At present, the baby will eat the same taming food as the parent when you start to feed them. However, the baby will not gain any bonus levels when tamed. This is likely a bug and may be fixed in the future. If you find a parent with a baby, you can claim it as normal when the parent is killed. However, if the baby is close to the parent and you tame up that parent, I have found that the baby starts eating along. So, at least for now, Move the baby gacha away if you want to tame its parent, or bring a ton of taming food if your chosen gacha has the baby symbol. If your gacha still has droopy ears and no other gachas are nearby, it is likely that it was recently attacked and needs a few minutes to compose itself. Going out of render distance may help, and if all else fails, try logging out and back in again and see if that fixes the sadness. To start the tame, drop your taming food on the floor in front of the happy gacha and wait for it to start eating. The gacha will repeatedly pick the items up, place them in its mouth and lick its fingers, chewing loudly. The taming progress bar will also appear to let you know that you are on the right track. Make sure that you throw the food from your player's inventory, as the gacha will eat items dropped out of tames but will not tame this way. Gachas will tame on nearly anything you drop on the ground for them, but certain items will give better taming effectiveness than others. When using structures, the gacha will eat a stack of 20 at a time out of the dropped package of 100, so you don't need to split the stacks manually before dropping them out. These gacha were all level 150 wild, tamed on all of these different foods that they are named for on 1x taming rates, and these were my results. From my tests, greenhouse walls and tech or metal foundations are the way to go if you want maximum taming efficiency and want a quick tame. If you don't mind losing some extra levels, you can just go ahead and drop down stone, which can easily be farmed all around the area. But beware, it will take much longer and you need to defend your gacha all the way through the taming process, as getting hit while it is eating will ruin the tame. You can also tame them by dropping out snow owl pellets if you have limited weight to work with, but once again this will take a very long time and you will need close to 100 pellets for a level 150. Anything and everything will work as taming food. However, some items just take a silly long time and require you to drop down an absolute ton of to satisfy the gacha's ravenous hunger. I did try to tame one on fiber for you, but ultimately gave up as the amount of feeds was just too much and I didn't want to wait around for 10 eats to reach 1% taming. Don't try this at home. I also found a myth where taming a gacha with element guaranteed that it would produce element dust when tamed. This is unfortunately also not true. A note here on gacha levels: if you tame up lower level gacha and do find the magical element dust producer, they will be much cheaper to clone later on, and you can still level even a level 5 wild tame up to 160% crafting skill for maximum dust production. Gacha stats are quite meek though, so the allure of a higher level is that it has a better chance to stay alive. Now that your gacha is safely tamed up, you can put them in a cryopod and bring them home. This is where the real fun begins. You need to be level 38 to unlock the gacha saddle for 6 engram points. It can be crafted directly on your character for 350 hide, 185 fiber and 150 chitin or keratin. Because the gacha has a back full of rocky protrusions, their saddle is very unique in that the player is placed in a basket around the neck. Once mounted, your gacha will have a left click slash attack with its left hand, a right click slam attack with its right hand, and a pickup animation with C. This only works if there is at least one package nearby. If the gacha is not mounted, it will use this pickup action automatically to swipe anything that you may drop in its vicinity, and as soon as it has something in its inventory, it may start munching away. This includes gear, armor, saddles, resources, even blueprints and cryopods with your favorite giga in them. Literally anything. Gachas will even pick up and eat feces if they are in range. So please beware what you throw out around your tamed gachas. This pickup action can be utilized to create an auto pickup Akatina based farm. Just make sure to have food in its inventory before attempting this, and have enough snails to occupy your gacha so that he doesn't even have time to eat all that paste. Gacha tame up with their resource harvesting turned off, so make sure to turn that on if you want to use yours for gathering. Gacha are great at gathering a variety of resources including stone, flint, wood, thatch, metal, fiber, and meat, but they really excel at gathering red crystallized sap from the corrupted trees in the wasteland. To capitalize on your gacha as a gatherer, you can level up melee damage and have a sap farming stone sloth. Gacha also receive a 50% weight reduction to metal, stone and wood in their inventories, and this can be improved even more by having certain traits on your gacha. Gacha have the unique ability to grow the glowing crystals on their backs. The more they eat, the more the crystals will grow until the gacha finally sits down, gives a sneeze and shakes a crystal loose. These crystals can then be picked up and cracked open to find your loot, just like a gachapon in real life. Gacha crystals have tiers. The common crystal without a tier or a colored background will only contain a resource. If you select the resource from your gacha's production list, you will only get that single resource in every crystal. However, if you set the gacha's production to any, you will receive a random assortment of all of the different items that gacha can produce. Tiered crystals will have a colored background and have a quality in the name. These will either be primitive, ramshackle or apprentice, and while they are on the ground, you will also see extra sparkles coming from them. These crystals can be cracked open to find a random quality loot item inside, which can be a structure, armor, a tool or even a weapon. Even though the crystals don't go higher than apprentice, you can still find up to ascended gear inside them. And even if the item isn't useful for you or your tribe, these items are still great for grinding down into resources in your industrial grinder. Since organic polymer doesn't spoil while in its crystal form, you can safely store hundreds of gacha crystals from your polymer producer and crack them open at 30 organic polymer per pop whenever you need them. Much better than cooking your polymer into soap any day. And if you are planning to go tame it too so toothless, you can carry your black pearls in crystal form to save on all that weight, so maybe hold off on cracking all of those crystals open at once. If you look at the radial menu on your gacha, you will see the production tab. This will show you the 6 randomized resources that your gacha can produce. Looking at them clockwise from the top, each gacha has 3 resources from the common list, 2 resources from the uncommon list, and 1 resource from the rare or even the ultra rare list. There is a total of 23 resources that a gacha can produce, the most coveted and rare being the element dust gacha. Various different things influence the amount of resources that you get per individual gacha crystal, and there is a maximum amount that you can get per category. Maximum from the common list is 120, the uncommon list is 60, and the rare list is 30. The ultra rare element dust maxes out at 180 per crystal. Each gacha will have a fixed selection from this list, and their production options can be viewed right from the moment they are born. Although gacha can be bred, they do not pass on any of their production items to their offspring, and each baby's production list will be unique to them. Thus, you cannot successfully breed more element dust gacha every round, and it may take a long time to finally get the resources that you are hoping for. If you do tame or breed a gacha that produces element dust, you can of course reproduce this gacha by cloning it if you don't want to wait around for the chance of taming or breeding another one. Clone gacha will have the exact same production list as their original. While we are on the topic of gacha breeding, let me clear up a few common misconceptions. Gacha breeding can be finicky if you don't know their secrets, as the babies will eat you out of house and home. Once your baby gacha is born, make sure to keep him or her out of the range of any feeding trough, but take care to keep them rendered at all times while they are growing up. Baby gacha will eat non-stop from their inventory if you allow them, but the trick is to simply never feed them at all. You do not need to keep an adult nearby either. You simply need to keep the baby gacha rendered and make sure that there is nothing in their inventory or on the ground for them to pick up and eat while they grow up, as this will interrupt their natural healing cycle. Once they reach the juvenile stage, you can either move them close to a trough and raise them like normal, or continue their fast while keeping them rendered, as they don't eat so much once they are old enough to eat from a trough. So how do we influence the amount of resources to maximize our gacha production? Well, first we need to talk about their moods, as this plays a key role. Gachas are sensitive fellows, and you can clearly tell a gacha's mood by looking at their facial expressions and the crystals on their backs. A happy gacha will follow the player with their head, perk up their ears and have a big smiley face and happy eyes. A happy gacha will happily eat. A sad gacha will look away from the player, have downturned ears and an overall unhappy facial expression. Sad gacha will also have muted grey particles on their backs and will not sparkle. Tame gacha mainly become sad if they are too close to another gacha of the same gender. Sad gacha do not want to eat, and if they do eat, they will not produce the maximum amount of resources per crystal. However, gacha work best in opposite gendered pairs, and this allows you to have 2 gacha per spot, doubling your yield. In ARK Ascended, the distance between tamed gacha has been reduced by 33%, and you now need to have roughly 7 foundation lengths between your gacha of the same gender. It makes no difference if your gacha are standing side to side or facing each other, the distance stays constant in ASA. Additionally, you can place them stacked up on top of each other where they need 7 wall space between them, or 9 walls when measured from their feet, as a gacha is roughly 2 walls high. If your tamed gacha is sad, simply remove the gacha of the same gender that is too close to it, and it will instantly feel better. In ASA, gacha have also been changed to always become sad in caves, so make sure that you have them out in the sunshine to keep them smiling. Although all of Aberration is technically one big cave, gachas will not become sad just out on the map itself, unless you take them into an artifact cave to go spelunking with you. As with any of us, gachas have their favorite snacks. These are on top of the main food that you feed them to produce resources. For some reason, gacha absolutely love snow owl pellets. In fact, feeding a snow owl pellet to your gacha will make them super happy and make the particles on their backs sparkle in bright colors, indicating that they are fully buffed and ready to produce their top tier loot and the highest amount of resources per crystal at the fastest possible rate. If a gacha has a snow owl pellet in its inventory, it will always eat that pellet first before growing a crystal, ensuring that you will get the best use out of your happy gachas when they are provided with an endless supply of snow owl snacks. Without pellets, your gacha will still produce crystals, but the amount of crystals for the same time period will be much lower. You can arrange your snow owls above or in front of your mated pairs of gacha, and as the owls drop their pellets, the gacha will automatically pick them up and stack them up in their inventory to snack on later. You can use the same method to drop out more food than your gacha's weight will allow, as the gacha picks up boxes off the ground until they are black boxed, even if their weight is already capped. Gachas have a crafting skill stat, which affects how much resources a gacha will produce per crystal. This stat is not affected by imprinting, but can be mutated if you decide to breed your gacha. If you want to focus your gacha on producing the maximum amount of resources, you want to level this crafting skill no higher than 160%. This will give the maximum amount of resource per crystal. anything higher than 160% and your gacha will start prioritizing dropping more item crystals than resource. And at 260% your gacha will have the maximum chance of dropping a tiered crystal containing an item rather than a resource. Any points into the stat after 260% are basically wasted and can be better spent elsewhere. The best food to feed your gacha for crystal production is a hotly debated topic. Some players swear by stone, others by structures, war maps, shotguns, seeds and even fiber. Although the food you feed does impact the crystal quality, you also need to consider ease of use. Rolling around with a Doedicurus and dropping stone to your gacha will always be easier than making hundreds of war maps and foundations. Gachas who produce stone also make more stone than they need to eat, so you can technically use only gacha to feed their friends if you really wanted to. Personally, I prefer to grow plant species Y in copious amounts around my gacha, as this is a renewable resource that I can have on hand at all times, and it gives very good crystal results as the traps are considered structures. Whatever you do decide to feed, make sure that you have owl pellets in the mix. These are my results for the same gacha being fed on different resources with and without owl pellets. Gachas will harvest anything within their range if you leave them next to a resource, and if you leave them on wander, they will pretty much gather anything they can, munch on it and drop crystals as they go. I would not recommend leaving your gacha to wander the world, however, as they are not amazing fighters and actually have pretty mediocre stats. Rather build them a nice little spot to keep them safe and feed them with love and owl pellets for best results. In ARK Ascended, the humble Pegomestax was selected as the dino of choice to get a little mini TLC as a companion critter for the gacha. So tame up a few Pego and dot them around your base and they will pick up all of the gacha crystals for you. Once tamed, just toggle the option in the radial menu and watch these loudmouth pickpockets go to work. Their range, scale on overall level, and in my tests attained 150 Pegomestax placed in the middle of my circle of gacha was able to pick up the crystals, falling roughly 12 foundations from them. I built this base specifically to house my gacha in pairs, with the minimum space between them and a large open area to plant my species Y seeds and have a dung beetle and some Pegomestax in the center to keep my farm going and to auto farm gacha crystals for me. I hope that you enjoyed learning all about the gacha and that this little guide will answer any questions that you may have regarding these magnificent beasts. May you and your tribe be rolling in resources from now on. Until we meet again, survivors. Tot ziens en lekker speel!